Hi everyone, welcome to our Book Please graphic novels for teen and adults. It's the second session about graphic novels that we're running. My name is Jenna. I am the librarian at the Foster City Library.
And my name is Debbie. I'm a community technology specialist from the Millbrae Library. But you also, I don't know if you may have seen us at some of our comic events through the library. We are the co-leads for the Peninsula Library's Comic Arts Fest, or PLCAF for short. That usually happens annually for an entire month. Ours did get canceled this year just because of COVID. it was supposed to occur in the month of March. So, but we got a few of the events in this year before we had to cancel the rest. But anyway, but we have, usually PLCAF is full of like author events, workshops, small press expo, a lot of fun stuff.
Yes.
But so we're always, yeah, sad. But we're always wanting to, share our love for comics. Hence why we have our graphic novel edition for Book Please.
Yes, our first one was for children and tweens. So they were the younger middle grade titles. And that book list is available too if you wanted to visit it.
Mm-hmm. And today, we'll just be kind of giving our recommendations for graphic novels for adults and teens. If anybody in the audience wants to, give suggestions as well, you can put it in the chat if you like, or, you can still interact with us through the chat.
But we'll have a PowerPoint presentation, as you can see, just because graphic novels are so visual. We wanted to show off some of the covers and pages from inside the books.
Yes. Shall we get started?
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll start off with all of our teen titles. So these are sort of for older middle school / high school age, roughly. Mm-hmm. Our first pick is The Prince and the Dressmaker by Wang, who is one of, I guess, our favorite artists. She has also done other titles. What's In Real Life, Stargazing, Coco Be Good.
Yeah,
we remembered. This one, it felt very different than all of her other books. It is all about Frances, who is a dressmaker. It's sort of historical France setting, I think. So. And she meets Prince Sebastian, who hires her on to make fabulous dresses because he goes out at night in disguise as Lady Crystalia, who wears like the fabulous gowns that you can see on the cover. So it's about, friendship and romance.
Yeah.
And, like Frances trying to achieve her dream of becoming a dressmaker, and the prince's dream of wearing what he finds comfortable. It was just a very sweet story.
Yeah, it makes him feel, like he is himself. He can express himself the way he wants to without being, vilified for it.
That's the word.
But yeah, I love Jen Wang's illustrations. Just always beautiful drawings, and just the way that she kind of moves you through the panels. It's always very lovely.
Just very different drawing style, like it's her drawing style.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to the next?
Yes. What do you recommend next?
Oh, my first recommendation is Dragonhoops by Jean Luen Yang. And Dragonhoops, or Jean Yang, is actually a local artist. And this particular book story is based, it's I would say it's nonfiction because it's based upon his own life and experience as a teacher. Not only is he a cartoonist, but he used to be a teacher at the Bishop O'Dowd School in Oakland. And this is his kind of recounting of the 2015 high school basketball team, kind of going through local championship, state championship and whatnot. And And also just, you know, interestingly, like there's some parallels with this basketball team and also Jin Yang's career, comics career, which is kind of fun to read. And I just felt like this book was very, you know, it was a page turner, you know, especially if you do like sports comics, you know, then that's kind of a thing that might interest you. And also, yeah, it's just like an interesting look into, you know, the school and the basketball team.
I also read it just because I try to read everything that he does. And the first thing I think of when I look at the book or think about the book is that its cover, it feels like an actual basketball. They like went that extra step to make it, I don't know, what, like a fancy cover.
Yeah, it feels like a basketball. It's pretty interesting.
It wasn't what I expected too, because I'm so used to him doing, I don't know, how would you describe his other books? They seem more cultural, oriented, maybe, and I didn't expect like a sports one, which I should have from Dragonhoops, the title.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also enjoyed it too, just seeing his journey. And I liked hearing about all the basketball players and their lives and what they're aiming for when they try to do this championship.
Yeah. Yeah. I just thought it was a nice page turner for me. Yeah, entertaining.
And seeing him when he was younger, those little glimpses, was fun too, just like that flashback you chose.
Yeah. All right, next one is...
my one. So this is the new Rainbow Rowell continuation of the Runaways series. Runaways has been recently adapted into a TV show, but if you haven't read it, it was originally a comic that took place in the 2000s, all about a group of kids who are the children of Marvel villains. And it's just how they sort of run away from that obligation of being labeled the child of villains and trying to get away from being called a superhero team. They're not like the Avengers. They do not want to be pulled into these big, massive battles. They just want to be teenagers. So they're not X-Men. They're very, very different. And then after that series ended, it was, I think, a couple years. In the story, it's 2 years after the finale of the original series, and all the characters are 2 years older, and you just sort of revisit them and where they are in modern days. So it's just a very well-written series. I really like Rainbow Rowell just as a novel writer, so her continuation is good, and the artist is, I think, the artist managed to modernize the characters while still making them recognizable, which was fun. And have you read this one, Debbie?
I have not, but I'm intrigued by these different characters. Because I'm not a huge like superhero comics reader, but yeah, I'm intrigued by who their parents are.
If you read, would you start the original series? I think you might get more out of it if you do.
Okay.
They do mention it.
Yeah. It's still possible to read these, like, you know, without reading the original series.
You might have questions because they'd be like, remember when that happened?
Oh, I see.
But they usually, like in the Marvel big series, they say, read issue number 5 of, like, they give you hints of where to read.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Probably a richer experience because you see how they change between when they were teenagers and now they're sort of young adults. But I think either way would be fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
And next up we have On a Sunbeam, which was this your pick as well? I know that I picked this, but
I think it was both of our picks.
Okay, yeah. So On a Sunbeam by Tillie Walden. And this one is about a young woman named Maia, and kind of like a coming of age story. She is kind of, I guess, I can't remember if she was assigned to a group that is repairing abandoned structures across the galaxy. So this all takes place in the far future and also in a faraway galaxy. It's very like space epic in a way. And you know, you're just kind of following this young woman's journey as she's kind of like growing up, and you know, there's like a bit of romance in there, drama, and also just like beautiful, I'd say beautiful drawings and epic scenes. Tillie Walden does a really great job of kind of transporting you to this whole other world, this whole other galaxy.
I just remember being swept away, like reading it, and I think right after you finish, I want to reread it again. It just took, yeah, like you said, takes you away. I think, did you say anything about how she made the space feel? I think you mentioned that earlier.
Oh yeah, it's kind of, it just has this like feel of, yeah, space. You know, like when you watch space-based movies that are very like kind of quiet, but at the same time so epic. You know, everything just looks so, you know, big and vacuous, but also beautiful. And I felt like that was kind of translated really well in a graphic novel format as well.
It's like a very simple drawing style, but she managed to convey all of that.
And I also thought one other thing that was interesting about it was all the characters in the book are all either girls or non-binary. No boys in this one. So I just thought that was kind of interesting.
I think it did do some flashbacks, right, back and forth, which I think confused me at first. Because I went, oh, wait, she's there? Wait, she's here? But just you get swept away by the experience. And
yeah.
Highly recommended.
Yep. Good story.
Very different than her other work, which was more autobiographical.
I think
was it
so.
Spinning?
Yeah, Spinning was loosely autobiographical.
I think.
Yeah.
Inspired by.
Yeah.
Okay. All what do we have?
This one is next.
Is that our last teen book?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So this one, I think both of us have read this one also, but it was my pick. Almost American Girl by Robin Ha. As you can see on the cover, it says it's an illustrated memoir all about the author's real life. When she was a teenager, she lived in Korea all her life. And then one summer, her and her mother go on vacation to the US, to a state which I can't remember.
Arkansas or Alabama?
Or Alabama.
Yeah, I think it's Arkansas.
And then while she's staying there, she finds out that her mother is remarrying a Korean American, and they are staying. She's not returning home to Korea. She isn't able to go back and pack up any of her things. She doesn't get to say goodbye to any of her friends. And I think this happened before, it's not pre-internet, was it? I think it might have been, because I remember she wrote letters to her friends. She couldn't just, text them or, Facebook message them and tell them, I'm never coming back home again. So it's just a very interesting story about seeing how she is not only just going to a new school, she's going to a new school where she doesn't know the language, the culture, has no friends, has some relatives, but there's sort of like a disconnect between her, I guess, traditional Korean culture and the Korean American kids who just want to speak English and don't want to teach her English. But I also really enjoyed how she related, or how she found things to relate to, because she's very into comics just like us. So that was one of the aspects of her assimilating, is finding comic book stores.
Yeah, and trying to read her favorite comics, whatever she can get a hold of. But I remember one of the gripes that she had about moving over is like she couldn't read the latest issue of the comic that she was reading back at home.
Oh yeah. And she said, "How does it end? I can't remember. I would never find out."
That's tough for her. An experience that you're really thrown in. Especially when you're an adolescent, you're already dealing with like adolescent issues and changes, and but this is like a huge shift for her, just to be thrown into this whole other world, the other side of the world, and her being like, a foreigner, or, and being treated like a foreigner, which is a super bummer. But I would say she assimilates really well in the end. Spoiler alert.
I think there was something about the first place she moved into. There weren't many. It wasn't very diverse, the town, right? That she moved into, other than her family and I think a few other Koreans in the neighborhood. There weren't many people. So it does talk about how she moved around to different places also, and some places were more diverse and some weren't. Right.
Yeah, it was a good story.
Yes. And no spoiler, I guess it is a spoiler, but yeah, I liked that she assimilated. And
of course. Yeah, definitely. All right, so shall we move on to our oops, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Preview. Now we're moving on to our adult recommendations. So these recommendations are, definitely more towards the adults out there, but then, if you're a young teen and you want to read any of these books, just, check with your parents.
Yeah, it's usually just like maybe what's discussed in the book might be a bit more adult, or if you just co-read it together, as long as there's a conversation.
Right, it might be like adult language, different reasons.
That's our disclaimer.
Yes. And this book, I think, is both of our picks, right?
Again.
Yep. Yeah. Genderqueer by Maia Kobabe, another local artist. And Maia also goes by different pronouns, as we learned from the book, actually. And Maia uses E, er, and M instead of she, her, and hers. Is it right? Or I always forget the equivalent.
I think you got it, but I think you switched the order around.
Okay, hers and her. Yeah. E, er, and M.
Yes.
So E's book, or I forgot, sorry. Air book is just about Maia's experience of grappling with air gender and trying to make sense of it all, and also I think I felt like it was very educational for me, and just learning Maia's experience, and what Air's feelings are on gender. So I definitely learned a lot, and I think like this particular comic that Maia wrote, where Maia says, I don't want a beard. I don't want my voice to change. I don't want more gender traits. I want less. So I was like, oh, okay. So that's, I think that's Maia's kind of definition of, being identifying as genderqueer.
Yeah, and I think Maia's book explains all of this in a way that isn't like Maia's telling Air's story to you. So you're along for the ride, and it's not like lecturing about this is how you should talk to people. It's more just informing, like this is why people feel this way. I think like the other books, after I finished reading it, I wanted to reread it again just to see, like, it felt like it was very dense, like there was a lot of layers to it, because you learn about Maia's family life, and then the way he relates to people. And I just remember there was one scene, I think, from the cover, where Maia and her class of fellow students were out and they were swimming on the beach or on the lake, and Maia removed Air's shirt just like the boys did, and the teacher was saying, oh no, you can't do that, and just discussing, oh, what's the difference right now when they basically look the same when they were younger, right?
Right.
Just a discussion of why is one act right okay for one person but not the other person.
Right. Yeah. Right, for sure. And the art is beautiful. Maia is super talented, and great with like just illustrating all the points that he is making in the book, just with metaphoric drawings and whatnot to help understand better too. But yeah, eye-opening for sure for me. And, you know, just even reading about Maia's experience, because it is a memoir. It's not, you know, it's not a textbook or anything. This is this is just Maia's experience, but it was still, you know, I still learned a lot from it.
Yeah. And I like the Maya's drawing style. It's like very clean and clear, but you know, portrays emotions and gets the point across. Yeah.
All right. Move on to the next one.
This was mine, and I made Debbie read it. This is it's a Japanese manga, a Japanese comic called Delicious in Dungeon. It's not easy to, I guess, put into one single box. It has fantasy elements. It has sort of like Dungeons and Dragons adventuring elements, and it also is a food-related comic, as you can see from the pictures we chose. It's all about a party of adventurers who go into a dungeon to, you know, make money, survive. That's their job. And the main character, Laerce's sister, gets attacked by a dragon and teleports them out of the dungeon to save them. And they have to go back into the dungeon without any equipment or money in order to save her. So they do so by living off of the dungeon, which entails using the monsters that they vanquish or defeat as elements of food. As you can see by the sandwich, the crispy, crunchy mushroom sandwich, which uses walking mushrooms and what else?
Changelings.
Changelings and other things.
Yeah.
Oh, cockatrice eggs. Yeah. So it's a very unique Japanese take on food and its impact on the environment and monsters. So I just felt it's very different. And then, yeah.
I thought it was a lot of fun, you know, or, you know, so far I haven't finished all the existing volumes yet, but yeah, I think it's a lot of fun so far, and I enjoy the creativity with all the food that they make from the monsters, and makes me want to try the dishes as well. I have a thing for like cartoon food, and so like this is like, ooh, even monster meat sounds good to me too, because they make it sound good.
Because they do all of the very intricate preparations usually, right? It's not just slice it and grill it, it's
right.
Baste it with,
yeah, they basically use, you know, real cooking techniques, you know, to cook the dishes that they have inside the dungeon with monster meat.
I do like how they also discuss nutrition. So they say, you know, it's not a balanced diet just to have, you know, dried meat and whatever adventurers take on a journey with them. You need a well-balanced meal, and you need to make sure that when you harvest the monsters from the dungeon, you know, you do it at a sustainable level. So they talk about environmental impact and, you know, giving back to the dungeon as well. So it's just very different, right? I don't think I've read anything else similar to it.
Yeah, very creative, fun. I like learning about the different monsters that are in the dungeon that they encounter. Yeah, I thought it's a lot of fun.
And it's still ongoing, so it hasn't ended yet, which I'm happy.
There's 8 volumes so far, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I've read 7 of them. I still have to read the 8th one. Waiting for it. It's on hold.
And then we can talk about it.
Yes. All right, next up is my pick. It is Good Talk by Mira Jacob. New York Times book review, notable book of 2018. And so Good Talk, I remember seeing this book on the shelf, and I looked at it and I was like, I do not want to read this book. Because I flipped through it and the drawings are like terrible in my opinion. You know, they kind of look like clip art, as you can see, you know, it looks like clip art. And a lot of the clip art drawings are actually reused throughout the book. So I was like, what is this? This is not comics. Until my coworker, he said, no, you should read this. You know, it's recommended. And I was like, really? Okay. So I read it and I was like, oh, you were right. It's a good book. Hence why I'm here recommending it. And this is basically about Mira Jacob's story of You know, she is an Indian American person, and she marries a Caucasian male or man, and so their child is of, you know, mixed race. And as you can see on this page, things get a little interesting when her 6-year-old asks, "Are we racist?" And you know, he just asks questions about race, and they're like very difficult questions. And you can see Mira Jacob kind of like stumble her way through answering those questions. But I thought it was very interesting, and just to, you know, to see race through also a young person's eyes, and, you know, and also how to, you know, how to talk to a young person about it. And so, yeah, I found it, you know, just kind of a good read, you know, in that, you know, just discussing issues around race. And yeah, I just found it it was entertaining, you know, it was a good page turner. And actually it goes pretty quickly, even though it's a pretty thick book. But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. And I think, Jenna, you didn't read this one, right?
I didn't, and I wasn't going to, but then I think you also persuaded me to at least try it and see how it goes.
Put it on hold and check it out.
I think there's one copy at my library, so I will go look for it.
It is not a notable book for nothing. So, so yeah, no, I recommend it. If you know, I easily got past the bad drawings, and I think, I don't know if the author is the one who drew them. And I don't think she considers herself, you know, like as a comic book artist, but I think the format actually worked well for the story too, or for the memoir. It's an interesting way of presenting it, and it's very much digestible. I think that's a good.
It seems kind of like an illustrated memoir versus a graphic novel, maybe.
Yeah, I would say very digestible for a heavy subject.
The speech bubbles, maybe that helped.
Yeah. All right, next up is this is both of ours. You can talk about it.
This is one of my favorites. It's Giant Days by John Allison. I just realized the cover doesn't have his full name on it. Yeah, Giant Days by John Allison. I've read his other work also, but this one I guess is one of my favorites. It is all about these 3 girls in England, or young women in England who go to university together and become kind of best friends, or they become really, really close friends. They all have sort of different adventures and antics, but it's like realistic levels of drama mostly, and just seeing them grow from their first year to their final year. Just great humor, great. It's touching. It's just good. No other words.
I think it's hilarious. You know, there's not that many comics, in my opinion, that make me laugh. Giant Days is definitely one of them, and I just enjoy just these 3 characters and how they're so different, and yet they are, like, you know, inseparable. And you know, each of them have their own little quirks and character traits that are very charming. I feel like, Giant Days is very charming to me. To me, it's also very British.
Oh yeah.
And it's got a lot of, like, you know, Britishisms that I kind of did not understand at first, or some of them I still probably don't get, but, you know, I keep going. But maybe, Jenna, you probably understand a lot more. Didn't notice it.
A lot of, like, some of the newer slang, or sometimes some of the characters, their grammar is kind of strange. So sometimes I had to read the phrases aloud and go, that's what they meant.
Yeah. See, like, you have some more context than I do with that. But I still enjoyed it. You know, you still understand the gist of it, even if you don't know the lingo or whatever. But yeah, super good series. Several volumes and trade paperbacks, but I think it just ended, right?
It ended. It did. There's also a novel too.
Oh yeah.
Like a novelization. Not as good, because it's trying to encapsulate the whole time in just a novel. But we highly recommend this one also.
Very, very charming and funny. I always enjoy every issue that comes out.
Yeah, great humor. I think just does it sort of recreate the college or the university experience, you know, people just coming together, or just it recreates the, you know, finding a friend that just clicks, and like anything can be fun when they're together, basically. Yeah. I'm wondering if that's where the title came from, Giant Days.
I don't know. Is that a British thing?
Maybe like these are the giant days of our life. I'm making
I
stuff
don't
up.
know. I don't know.
But I highly recommend his other works too. He also did some other series which take place when the main character Esther, when she's in like high school, or their high school. You can also see her antics in her hometown and even before that. So there's a whole series of things. If you like Giant Days, you can kind of go backwards in time and follow their journey then.
Fun. Okay.
Yes.
Next one. Okay, this one is my pick. Uncomfortably Happily. Which is kind of hard for me to say sometimes, or even remember the title, by Yeon-Sik. And this one is originally a Korean, you know, is written in Korean as a Korean comic, but it was translated by Helen Jo, actually an American comic book artist and a super, super talented artist. But Uncomfortably Happily is kind of just following, I think it's loosely based on the author's experience. I think that's what they say. And so it's about this, you know, couple who move away from the city life of Seoul, Korea, and move to the countryside, and just, you know, kind of they're thinking like, this is the ideal life, you know, nothing can hurt us here. We're our own, we're going to farm our own food. We're going to build our own like structures, like we're going to be living off the land. And, for some time it is like pretty idyllic and it sounds cool, but of course, you know, real life will set in oftentimes, and difficulties will happen, like in any relationship. And but yeah, it's just I thought it was a really fun story that's not, you know, it's not a super happy story, but it's not a super depressing story. It's kind of like in between, kind of slice of life-ish. But I enjoyed it a lot, and just thought it was just a kind of a very, you know, despite the cartoonish drawings, it kind of was very like realistic in a way. If that makes sense.
I want to read it.
Yeah. And then I did include in the bottom right corner a Maus table, which is I don't think it's a sequel. It's not a sequel but it is kind of somewhat similar in subject matter, where again a couple who are like shown as cats here, they move from the city to the country life, but this one also kind of chronicles like their experience of aging parents and a very, you know, sick mother, and going back and forth between the country life, the idyllic country life, and then back to the kind of depressing city life. Maus Table is a little bit more on the depressing side than Uncomfortably Happily, just to warn you. Still a good book, but it's just, you know, not a feel-good book. Yeah. But
is it about food? Because they're eating on the cover, and
yes. So they often do cook a lot of food. Like they you know, raise their own chickens. They grow their own like vegetables, and then they cook it themselves, and it always looks so delicious. And they make the kimchi by them, you know, by hand. And it definitely makes you hungry for Korean food. And, you know, making the food also ties them a lot to his mother, you know, who is aging. and you know, just kind of keeping her legacy alive with all the food that they cook from.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that because isn't that mother? I thought. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I have to read this one too, even though it's depressing.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe read Uncomfortably Happily first. If you like that one, then you can move to Uma's Table.
So I'll be hungry and sad if I read Uma's Table.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
The drawing style kind of reminds me of, what is it, sort of Astro Boy,
Yeah,
like an old school drawing style.
Yeah, like Tezuka. Tezuka, yeah, very much that kind of, you know, a lot of people say, I remember reading some review on this book, and it's like, once you get past like the childish drawings, then, you know, you can kind of see, you know, what the gist of the book is about. But the drawings never bothered me personally.
Just a different style.
It's just different to me. Yeah.
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 Her eyes are very, very big, but they're cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next up. Ooh.
Ah.
I'm always like excited when I see these books.
I think, who's going first? Am I going first?
I think you're going.
Okay. Isabel Greenberg, we are recommending everything of hers. Debbie actually was the one who got me reading, I can't remember if it was 100 Nights of Hero, but that is my favorite. It is amazing storytelling, weaving multiple stories together. 100 Nights of Hero is all about a hero who is sharing stories to delay a bad person. I guess that's the non-spoilery spoiler version. But I just really love the way the story interacts with these like very different wood block cut drawing style. Just it also sweeps you away, just like all the other books we were saying. It just takes you on a journey, and they're massive books, like that big.
Yeah, pretty tall.
Like, I don't think anyone can measure distance with us, but they're just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I also concur. You know, Isabel Greenberg, I admire a lot just for her storytelling ability. She's a master storyteller, in my opinion. In that, and I think she uses storytelling as a theme, I guess. You know, you're definitely like kind of thrown into the idea that the importance of storytelling and the magic that it can bring. And all three of these books are definitely full of stories and woven together, like Jenna said. You know, they're just woven together so nice and neatly and very creatively. So the Encyclopedia of Early Earth, I think, is her first graphic novel. That's the first one that I read. And it's just like, you know, it starts with a story of a storyteller, and the storyteller basically just kind of tells story after story that they're kind of like all layered on top of each other. Like, I don't know how to describe. It's kind of like if you've seen the movie Inception, you have a dream within a dream within a dream. So it's stories within stories, and but just full of like it's a whole other world. So you're kind of, if you're into like mythology at all, I feel like you'll be a fan of Isabel Greenberg as well, because she makes her own mythology. She borrows from others, but she makes her own, and I always feel like that she does it super well. And
they just take you away on all the stories, and I don't know how she just melds it all together in the end.
Yeah, she does it though. And then Glass Town is her most recent book. I think it came out earlier this year, in the beginning of the year. And this one, she uses the Bronte children, Charlotte, Emily, oh boy, I forgot the other two.
Don't ask me.
Annie and Charles, I think, are the names. I hope I got that right. So I think she uses them as characters in this whole the story, and because the Brontes are storytellers as well. Again, she's doing the layering, but she does like, you know, this fictional account of how the Brontes lived as children, and how they wrote their stories, and how they weave their stories together with each other too, and the collaborations that they had. And they created the Brontes, the fictional version of the Brontes created the Glass Town, and they each individually had characters living in Glass Town and wove their stories together, which I thought was really neat. Even though I'm not a huge fan of the Bronte books. Like I think I read Wuthering Heights in high school, and that's probably about it.
I haven't read any of them.
Yeah, nobody ever made me read Jane Eyre or anything either. But even though I didn't really read them, I still enjoyed the stories.
I think just because I also kind of write, just seeing how they weave together this each writer's story, and then I think some of the kids, they go away, maybe they go to school, and the other kids continue the story, and just seeing how characters have changed when they return and rejoin the Glass Town. Just, I don't know where she gets her ideas. Like Isabel Greenberg, how does she think of this?
And it's like Glass Town only comes alive when somebody's writing about it.
Yeah,
so
one of the storytellers.
And they believe, they kind of believe like, no, don't let Glass Town die. You have to keep writing for it. So yeah, very fun. Of the three, my favorite is the Encyclopedia of Early Earth. So,
but my favorite, 100 Nights of Hero, and then probably Encyclopedia after that. But they're all good.
Yes. Read Isabel Greenberg's book.
Yes. Basically, we've been saying, read everything that we've said. Yeah. But they're all very different. So if you're in the mood for different things, one book might sustain you more than the others. My one.
Yes.
It is another Japanese manga, which we did not realize earlier was based off of a novel, Kahuna of the Wind by Sophie Schwim. Magus of the Library is just a very detailed historical fantasy world. I might have Debbie fill in some of the other details, but I just really like the world building, the characters, the gorgeous drawing style, and the focus on books, because everyone loves, well, not everyone, books are a major theme in this universe.
And I think maybe as people who work in a library, we're kind of biased because the heroes of the series are librarians.
Yes.
And so I guess I can tell them, I've only read this first volume so far, but the main protagonist is, oh gosh, I forgot his name.
The person on the cover.
Yes, the person on the cover, who is a young, I guess, maybe an elf, because he has long ears, like long pointy ears, but he gets constantly made fun of for his long ears and for being from the slums and being poor, and he doesn't belong in this town. You go back home to your slum. They're kind of very mean to him. All the kids in school are like, why are you even here? But he's there because he wants to learn. He wants to learn how to read. He wants to educate himself. And he loves to read. And oftentimes he has to sneak into the library because whenever the librarian catches him in the library, he kicks him out and says, you don't belong in here, go back home, long ears too. So everybody, is so mean to this kid, even though all he wants to do is just read and learn. But one day, the librarians from the central library, which is kind of like in a faraway land, they roll in on horseback and camels. They roll into town because they're checking up on this, this small library branch, making sure things are okay. And they come across this young boy, and one of the librarians becomes enamored with this young boy and kind of befriends them, and they end up learning from each other without giving too many spoilers.
Mentors, like she mentors him.
Yeah, exactly. So
I think we are biased, but it's a very different world that they built. I do like that the librarians, their skills are, I think, like hunting down books, using wind magic, and repairing books with their amazing skills. They just repair the book cover and the spine and this. It's I've never seen like librarian skills being used in a fantasy world before.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
very magical, detailed drawings, as you can see here. But yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's also humor in it too. I remember there's like humor, interesting characters, family, friendship, all of the fun manga stuff.
I'm looking forward to reading the second volume.
I think I want to reread from the start because I forgot some of those details about those people in the village who don't treat him nicely.
Oh yeah, they're not very nice at all. And then I think this is our last one.
Yes, this is my one. It's technically it's another superhero one. It is a DC title. As you can see, it's Harleen by, I probably am not pronouncing his name correctly, Stjepan Sejak. It is a reimagined origin story of Harley Quinn, or Harleen Quinzel, who is, in the typical lore, she is a psychiatrist who goes into Arkham Asylum and falls for the Joker. But this version, it's much deeper than that. It's sort of a psychological journey into her mind as she basically she is driven to go and study all the patients in the Arkham Asylum and tries to analyze like what makes them the way they are. And she bumps into this charismatic version of the Joker who's called Jay, just like Jay. And she's just interacting with him and learning, why have you become like this? What has caused you to lead a life as a supervillain in Gotham? It also analyzes some of Batman's qualities as, the Cape Crusader who strikes fear into the heart of villains. It's a one volume, complete, I guess, not a twist, but just a much more deeper analytical version of her origin story. And I've been telling Debbie she should read this one too, even though you don't read superheroes.
Yeah, I read superhero stuff, and Harley Quinn has never really interested me, I guess, because like she just seems like, and Joker, both of them are just a little too like scary for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But when you talk about, I like seeing these drawings. These drawings are like really beautiful too. And, just kind of like feels like a different take on the regular depiction of both of these characters. So I put it on hold. I will let you know what I think.
Now I hope you like it after I praised it so much. But yeah, the drawings, like every panel is like that kind of drawing style, detailed. They do kind of talk about the original like versions of their costumes. Like you can see on the cover, she's wearing that Harlequin costume that she wore in the cartoon, which is like the spandex and the ruffles and the hat with bells. So they do kind of interpret it, but it's usually in a form of like psychiatric analysis. So it's just very different. This one is definitely an adult comic. Probably, yeah. If teenager, it would be like a senior in high school, probably. Yeah, but very, very different. And I hope you enjoy it, Debbie.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it.
So I guess that is our last one.
Yeah, that's our last one. So I will exit out of here.
Yep. Okay, so I guess that's all we have. Thank you for listening, and we'll probably also post the list of books that we mentioned in this presentation. Debbie has other stuff.
Well, I was going to say, is it going to be on smcl.org?
I think so. We can do it as a reading list.
Yeah, on smcl.org, along with that list, you can also just check out all the other programs that we have on from our amazing staff. We've got virtual story times. We've got computer help, our tech cafe series.
Clubs.
Sorry?
Book clubs.
Book clubs, book please. Yeah, like other book pleases too. Do you know when the next book please is? Yeah, I don't know actually either. Sorry.
Sometime next month.
Check out the website smcl.org for all the different themed book pleases that we have.
Yes.
Almost every couple weeks, right? It seems like.
I think we're doing every 2 weeks, so twice a month we usually have it, and it's a whole wide range of different subjects.
Yep, like science fiction, historical fiction. I can't remember what the other ones were.
Fantasy. There's a fantasy one coming up, hopefully in December, for kids fantasy. Yeah.
Books in Chinese, right? Yeah, a lot of different themes.
Wide range. If you don't know what you want to read, you can check out one of those lists and order them from the library for free. Yep.
All righty. I think that's it for tonight. So thank you all for joining us. And if you want, just let us know what your picks are for graphic novels for teens and adults as well.
Yes.
I'd love to hear it.
Hope you like them if you do get them too.
Yeah.
Okay. And thanks, Debbie. This was fun.
Yeah, thank you. See ya.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.